how to properly cook an aubergine. We're going to use the simplest method, which is using the oven to make a simple aubergine dip that is called in France the aubergine caviar. Not to be mistaken with the baba ganoush from Lebanon, which is an aubergine dip mixed with tahini, which is a sesame paste, and other components like spices and things like this. This version of the dip is the plain, straightforward, just the aubergine. We're going to have some olive oil, some onion, a bit of tomato, salt and pepper, maybe some lemon juice and mustard, but that's about it, okay? What's really important in that lesson is really, how do we go about cooking this properly? Let's have a look. If you've never prepared an aubergine, don't worry, it's super simple using that technique. You got the whole vegetable on here. This is not very nice, and it's a bit black, so you can just remove a little bit. I'm not even cutting the rest, okay? Or what I'm going to do here is to cut this in half. So again, remember you take the appropriate knife and you cut your vegetable in half. What I like to do, okay, to kind of accelerate a little bit the cooking is take a small knife like this, and I'm going to be making not so deep incision, kind of just a crisscross shape in here, to have something like that, okay, you see that? I'm going to take a plate, I'm going to take some olive oil and a basting brush, and all what I'm going to do is a little bit, a little brush of oil on there, just because nowadays the aubergine from the supermarket and stuff, they can get a bit dry kind of thing, so I like to put a little bit of, get them started with a little bit of oil. When we're done here, a little bit of salt, no excess, we'll add some later, and some pepper, okay? And we're going to repeat the same with all the aubergines. So that's one, and I'm going to do the other one. So here I am, I'm finished. I've got my 4 halves of aubergine, and as you can see, everything has been coated with oil, with a little bit of salt and pepper. How are we going to cook this? Like I said, under the grill, and a grill is very, very hot. So what we usually do with this kind of dip, we're going to be protecting our aubergine by turning them over, and we're going to grill them skin side up, as so. That's how it looks like. We're going to preheat the oven now at 200 degrees Celsius, which is about 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and depending on how modern or not your oven is, you could reduce the temperature to 180, but the most important is to only use that kind of grill function, broiler function, there's different name to it, but make sure it's not too hot. So if you can set it to 200, it should be fine. The other hint here is when you put that into the oven, we have to put this on the very top shelf of the oven, not in the middle, not at the bottom. That needs to be sitting about 5 centimeters, which is just a few inches from the grill plate, okay? But I'll show you this in the oven exactly what it means exactly. So to put this into perspective, here is my oven. As you can see, there's plenty of room here, and my tray sits totally, really under the grill. So I'm going to close the door here, and I'm going to go for 20 minutes. As soon as your aubergines are in the oven, you got plenty of time to prepare your mise en place. Remember, the mise en place is what we've covered in the kitchen skills. What we're going to be needing is just 1 onion thinly diced, 1 or 2 cloves of garlic, using a garlic press, so you can chop them thinly if you want. About a teaspoon of mustard and about a tablespoon of chopped tomato. This is just from a tin, like chopped tomato from a tin that I've chopped again very thinly. And then a few tablespoons of olive oil. Additionally, you can use some lemon juice, but this is optional. Of course, you're going to find the salt and pepper. But before we can use those, especially the onion, we're going to have to cook them before we can add them into the dip. And now for the onion. Now, the first thing that comes to mind when you think about pan frying is always using a frying pan, but sometimes a little, a little saute pan like this, it's actually perfect. So I've got a tablespoon of oil in there, a medium heat, and we're not going to be kind of browning the onion. We're going to keep to medium maximum and really cook the onion properly. So same thing here, onion at a low heat can take 15 minutes to cook. And it is very important to have your onions well cooked. So I'm adding first the onion and garlic together, and a bit of salt and pepper. Salt, you don't want your mixture to be dull. A bit of pepper. And make sure you don't brown the onion, okay? So I'm going to leave this to cook gently, like I said, for 10 to 15 minutes, just the time for my aubergine to be cooked. So here we are, around 12 minutes or a bit more. I've had to reduce my heat to low actually, because you see it started to brown, and we're now ready to add the tomato. Now we are not making a tomato sauce. So I've removed most of the tomato juice that was in the tomatoes here, and we're just mixing the whole lot to have something coherent, you see, but it doesn't transform into some kind of tomato sauce. You got the chunks of tomatoes, the chunks of onion, and the garlic and the seasoning. I'm going to leave this cook just for a few minutes more and then turn the heat off. And here we are, let's have a look at our aubergine on here, and as you can see, I had to even crank up the heat to 220 on my grill to even get that kind of charcoal mark, that brown burn mark on top of the aubergine. This is to tell you how tough these things are. 25 minutes, 2 inches or 5 centimeters away from the grill, and I did not even manage to totally burn the skin of the aubergine. This is how tough these things are. But what matters is this. Let's look at the aubergine itself. You see inside, the flesh is cooked. So you can take a spoon and you can tear it apart like that. That is the sign when it's not spongy anymore. Okay, so you lose that kind of sponginess that, that resemble like pieces of sponge, and that is the consistency you want for this type of dip. So I'm going to leave this to cool and then finish my tomatoes and onion mix on the side. All right, so we've got all the ingredients. I've got my tomato and onion mixture on here. I've got the leftover mustard. I've got my lemon. Or what you're going to do here is to take your aubergine. See how lovely that looks and totally cooked, which is what we want. And you're going to scrap everything, all the flesh, and put this into a bowl. So when you're done with all of the flesh, you put this into a bowl, and now we can make the assembly. And at that stage, can be done 2 different ways. Some people like to use a food processor and put everything in the food processor and mix. But you can do it by hand. For me, you know what? Set up the food processor, dirtying it, having to clean it afterwards. I'm not bothering. I can, if it's totally cooked, if you do this, like a mayonnaise, by hand, you will have a nice and rustic type of dish. So you taste, you add a bit of salt and pepper, okay? I'm gonna add a little bit of mustard, like we had. The mustard can be optional. Some people like to add a bit of cumin in there. And of course, we're gonna have the lemon juice. Same thing, lemon juice, it's kind of up to you. Some people don't put it, some people put it, but the most important is the olive oil. So 3 to 4 tablespoons, and it's like a mayonnaise. You're gonna pour a little bit and mix the whole lot. Okay. You can use a whisk if you want. So I'm gonna keep on going, make sure it's all stirred through and all mixed well. I've now changed to a wooden spoon, and the final tip I can give you, the little trick, if your aubergines are not smoky enough, you can use a 1/4 teaspoon or a pinch of smoked paprika, okay? And that has got a strong smoky flavor. You can also use liquid smoke. Now that's a bit of a cheat thing. And that's gonna be it. We're gonna reserve this into a nice bowl, and that needs to rest for at least 2 hours in the refrigerator until it's really cold before it can be served. And here we are, once the aubergine caviar is cold, it is ready to be served. This is my little setting. It is the perfect dip when you get friends over in the summer. It's nice and cold, it's really refreshing, and it will be so much different than the stuff you buy in a supermarket. Let me tell you, when you try that recipe, you'll never go back. But that's it, I hope you make it. Tell me what you think in the comment section. And as for me, I will see you next week with another French cooking video. Take care all, bye bye.
My appetite, don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, well, I don't wanna jinx it, baby, and twist my appetite. Don't leave me